the black. Stop it. I say cease and desist. You see, give these people their own identities. Cease and desist. Comparisons. When I hear seasoned, like the elite of the elite, August Wilson actors that are living. Some of them I know, and some of them you don't know, and they make these comparisons to Shakespeare. I wince for them.
Hey, welcome back to the On the Shoulders of Giants YouTube channel. I am excited to be back, to be live, to be sharing some information with you all. I love you all. Thank you to everybody who supports this On the Shoulders of Giants platform, period, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Patreon, whether it's my website, my Instagram, just all around. Thank you to everyone, because without you, this platform wouldn't be what it is. We're currently over 10,000 subscribers here on this YouTube channel. So thank you to all of the subscribers. Thank you. And the plan is to keep growing. So please share this video. Please like this video. Please drop a comment. We want to make sure you all comment. We want some interaction. We want to hear what people have to say. We want some good conversation going on today. So make sure you comment, you share the video, subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then that way, every time I drop a video and every time we come back live, you'll know what's going on, and you won't have to go around scrambling. That notification bell, you're gonna get that bang, that ding, and there you go. You know we back live. Make sure you check out my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com. You see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I will make sure I put a link in the description, so make sure you check that out, because that's the home base. The website is the home base. Yes, the YouTube channel is where we get down and we get funky, but the website is the home base. You can purchase my books, all 3 volumes. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the On the Shoulders of Giants series. Volume 1 covers Song of Unsung Heroes from North America. Volume 2 covers Song of Unsung Heroes from Central America. Volume 3 covers Song of Unsung Heroes from South America. And currently I'm writing Volume 4, the Caribbean. That's coming soon. You can get t-shirts, all type of merchandise, and make sure you become a patron. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, or however much you want to contribute. Just www.patreon.com/OTSOG. That way you can support me and we can keep this thing rolling, because without your support, can't keep this thing rolling. And like Baba Kaba Kamene says, a broke revolutionary leads a broke revolution. That's not what we're trying to do around here. So we want to make sure we support everyone, because with your contributions, you are supporting an organization that's going into the communities and make sure we're pouring back into the youth and the adults within the community, because we understand the balance between youth and adults, and we got to pour back into everybody. All right, so why are we here today on this great Wednesday? We got the great brother Martin Burrows in the house, and we are jumping into our imaginary jets, and we're going to fly down to the South Pacific, and we're going to go through those islands, especially Melanesia, and we're going to explore it furthermore. So welcome, brother Martin. Welcome to the On the Shoulders of Giants YouTube channel.
Hey, Joseph. Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out to me. Give you a little backstory. Of course, everybody know I did about 4 live videos with Dr. Runoko Rashidi, and rest in peace, Dr. Runoko Rashidi. Dr. Rashidi is one of the people that I molded my platform out. J.A. Rogers, Dr. John Henry Clark, and Runoko Rashidi. These are the 3 people that I molded On the Shoulders of Giants after. I think we need to really understand. I was just telling somebody this yesterday. Understand the significance of Dr. Rashidi in pulling back the veil of the rest of the African diaspora. So we're seeing more than just the Americas, Europe, and Africa. We're able to see that the African presence in the whole world. So we did the live. Brother Martin saw the live. He reached out to me, said, hey, I've not only spent time in the South Pacific, I researched just African people, African history, African culture. We had a couple great conversations and decided to set this up. So here we are today, and we're going to explore further the African cultures within the South Pacific. So once again, welcome, my brother.
Oh, thank you very much. Just a side note, in my talks with Renoco, he said he would also like to have an internet cafe in Vanuatu or something. I don't know if he ever told you that.
No.
He likes Vanuatu. Yeah, I used to talk to him every once in a while.
Now that's so cool. Like what I really loved about him is how approachable he is, how human he is, and that's one thing I would always tell him, especially on this platform. I like to humanize people because I understand how large of a figure he was, but you email him, you call him, you reach out to him, he's going to answer, he's going to talk to you, and he's a great person. I appreciate everything he did for me, and just we're going to keep this thing rolling. We're going to make sure his legacy is never forgotten, and we're going to continue to work. So that's what we're doing here today. So, so you and I have had a conversation, and I know about you.
Yeah.
So for those who are watching, who have no idea who you are, can you give us some background information about yourself and why you study African history?
Okay, so I'm from Riverhead, New York, born and raised New Yorker, Long Islander, and just a general interest in history, because I always wanted to learn more about history. And not knowing a lot about Africa made me go even deeper. That's why I even studied. I have a master's in international studies with a specialty in African studies. And I'll say I don't know that much because there's so much that we don't know.
Yes.
Even when you think you know something, you don't know nothing at all.
Exactly.
But it's just a general interest, and it was something that was in my heart, and that's why I studied it.
Yeah. So my dad, he taught for 20 years at Florida A&M. He taught African American history and African American studies. So when I was a child, I really didn't understand what was going on. But Black history, African history has always been something. Well, history period has always been something that interested me. If it was something happening, I wanted to know the history behind it. I wanted to know the why and just the backstory behind it. And that helped me to be able to grow my platform and just grow my ideas and thoughts about history and learn more, set that path up. So now it's amazing how paths start and then paths intersect and how we get here today. So in your opinion, why do you think it's important for African people globally, but especially here in America, for us to know our history?
I think history helps us in a sense to plan for the future so we don't make the same mistakes that we did in the past.
Right.
And to find out about, how did we get to this earth? How long have we been here? I mean, is this the first time we've come to this type of civilization, for lack of a better word, or were there many before? Those kind of questions, I think why like history. Pretty much on like the political note is really to not make the same mistakes. Again, that's why I think people should study history.
I agree.
And digging deep, because a lot of times what we think we know, what we're taught, it's more complex than what we were taught. It's not always just peanut butter and jelly. You might have some bananas and use some flatbread with that as well. So, there's a lot of things that we have to find from our point of view.
Right. Neely Fuller Jr., and just kind of paraphrasing the quote, if you don't understand what white supremacy, racism is, how it works and how it affects you, everything else you learn will only confuse you. And so being able to get the history, but really get the why behind it and the actual steps that led to where we are today, being able to understand all of that will lessen the confusion and heighten the understanding, giving us information that we can actually use moving forward. So,
and we can always find out, the groups always have patterns.
right.
And you can watch those patterns. Oh, this is what they're doing. Let's counteract this.
Right. Yeah. So your grandfather was a very inspirational person in your life. Spending time with your grandfather, from what I was reading about you, kind of helped you on the path that you are on now, as far as introducing you to African history, but introducing you to the African diaspora in the South Pacific. So could you tell us a bit about your grandfather, your interactions, and how he inspired you to follow this path of learning more about your history and just the African diaspora as a whole?
There were actually two people, my grandfather and my uncle.
Okay.
My grandfather's son, my uncle Ed.
Okay.
But I'll talk my grandfather first. I remember as a kid, he used to talk about World War II, about the Pacific. And he said one time, I never really saw an Afro until I went to PNG.
Wow.
And I was like, what? They got Afros in PNG. I was a little kid. And lo and behold, I was looking in a book, a geology book or a geography book. And I see some black folks, and they're from I think New Hebrides, the old colonial names for like Vanuatu and New Caledonia. And they had PNG in there. And I was like, dang, how did they get on the other side of the world like that? Because a lot of times we're only focused on Africa.
Right.
And we don't see that whole diaspora of things that were going on.
Yes.
Like the African presence in India, the African presence in the Arabian-speaking countries, the African presence in Asia.
Right.
And so that just baffled me. And also what led me to traveling was that my Uncle Ed is an opera singer. Mm-hmm. And he always lived abroad. I don't think he ever knew this, but I always wanted to one-up him. So I said, I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to go to the South Pacific. I'm going to go in Asia. I'm going to go all these places.
Mm-hmm.
But and then later on, it was during the 87 coup. My father used to like reading about that in Fiji. Mm-hmm. And he used to pass me these New York Times articles about Rambuka and what was going on in Fiji. And I was just like, wow. So,
and just to be clear, PNG is Papua New Guinea, correct?
Yes, Papua New Guinea.
Okay. So the first time he saw Afros is when he went to PNG.
No, he saw them, but
right.
They were even bigger than what he saw.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Some lush Afros.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I can remember maybe high school or college. So we're talking late 90s, early 2000s. The first time I saw a picture of Black people from the Solomon Islands, it blew my mind because we've always been taught that only white people have blonde hair and blue eyes. That's what we've been taught. I've been taught that my whole life. Everybody I know, it's been put into our heads that white people are the only ones with blonde hair and blue eyes. But we're taught that, the original man, all other races of people come from Black people, but never thinking about like the phenotypes and the different genetic expressions that can happen. So first time I saw a person whose skin tone is the same color, it's the same tone as mine, even darker, with that honey blonde hair and blue eyes, it blew my mind.
I've seen them. You can see that sometimes even in America or in the Caribbean. When people are mixed.
Okay.
They'll have the sandy brown hair, blonde hair, and sometimes with the blue eyes. In the Pacific, they still have brown eyes, but yeah, it's a sight to see. Right.
Yeah, and those are one of the places that are definitely on the top of my list to go. Looking at looking at those pictures with Dr. Rashidi and hearing him tell the stories, it opened up something new for me, because I know I'm from Florida here, and a lot of Florida is a vacation spot itself, but Puerto Rico, DR, all the normal places that people would go. And I always would thought, well, where are the other places in the world that people don't go? In the South Pacific, the Melanesian Islands, just the South Pacific as a whole. I'm definitely coming. I will be there. Yes.
Well, Fiji has a tourist market.
Okay.
There are quite a few islands. Viti Levu, Vanua Levu. Where I was the capital, Suva.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a tourist, you're coming in from Florida on Fiji Airways, you're flying into Nandi. Nandi's a tourist town.
Okay.
I kind of deem it almost the New York, because a lot of things are going on in Nandi. And I mean, you got your clubs, you got your resorts, your bars, you got your beaches. Then you also have your villages. A lot of good stuff going on there.
Right. Now that's so cool. Because like I say, we don't learn about it. And if we do learn about these people, these cultures, it's still in a manner of, well, these are the backward people who don't have clothes on. But people over here in America fight not to have clothes on as well. So are they really backwards? I mean, like, people actually fighting to be naked. So are they really backwards?
No, folks are beautiful, man. I want to say this. It's folks can be very organized, very structured. At the same time, like all of us, they're colonized as well by the British. Talking about Fiji, but very nice customs, very beautiful traditions. They have kava, which a lot of people have taken to calm their spirits, and that's native to the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
The cuisine is good. Just good folks generally all around.
Right. So how did you spent time in the South Pacific, but before you actually got to spend time in the South Pacific, what were the events that led up to you actually traveling to the South Pacific and living there? Because I believe you lived there for 7 years, correct?
Yeah, 7 years, man. Just came back.
Right. So how did all of before we get to you living there, how did that happen? What led up to you making the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to go to the South Pacific and live here for a while?
I wanted to go in 2011, and I saw a job at the University of South Pacific, mm-hmm. where I eventually went to work, and I kind of like put it off. I wanted to apply, but didn't apply.
Right.
It was managing their marine library.
Mm-hmm.
And so around 2013, I saw a position with running the Oceania Sport Information Center. And I was like, hey, it's a little bit up my alley, a little bit more exciting than looking at the fishies. Not that the fishies aren't exciting, but I was like, yeah, there's something I could do. Right. And so I applied and went. I was like, dang, I'm not getting any younger. And I always wanted to see the Pacific. So I said, let me go.
That's cool. So University of South Pacific, you got the position.
And that's one of the premier universities in the Pacific, mm-hmm. outside of Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
And the program that I was with, it was a joint program between the University of South Pacific and the Oceania National Olympic Committees, which is the regional sport body for the region. The Olympic sport body.
Okay. Yeah. And I think this year they had a couple representatives from some of the South Pacific islands showing off their traditional garb in the Olympics.
Yeah. She won a gold medal and a bronze.
That's so cool. That's cool. That is cool. So, 7 years there. So how much information about these islands, the South Pacific, did you actually have at this time of you traveling to preparing to work at the University of South Pacific and live here?
Not that much.
Okay.
And when I started, and unfortunately, you don't have that many, I should say, South Pacific historians. So
right.
You had in like earlier times, 50s, 60s, had some like Fijian authors that were really prolific in their history. But you really don't have that many archaeologists or anthropologists. And that might be a thing on resources with the schools. Where can I really find a job as an anthropologist in Fiji or any of the other islands? I might go major in business. Although I believe they do have cultural studies, but it's not as strong as you would see it in other places. And that might be because they're just
right.
starting out and like very young not that they don't have an educational system. Traditionally, they are on the oral culture. But, and also the other dynamics that play in there culturally. So maybe in the future, we'll see more Fijian anthropologists, archaeologists, and making more strides in really bridging that gap on where they come from, a true kind of history from a Fijian perspective, even though they have their own oral histories about it.
Right. But that's and one of the reasons why I'm glad we're doing this, because that's an area of the world that we need to study more. We do need to learn more about the South Pacific, the African presence, the cultures there, because they like you say, they've been colonized just like we've been colonized. We just call it slavery and racism and something else, but the same process is happening. So I'm sure they don't have all the access to that history the same as us. So they're learning themselves, we're learning ourselves, and we're trying to learn each other at the same time.
True, and they had a slavery there. It was called blackbirding.
Right. Well, could you explain the process of blackbirding?
They would take folks from the Solomon Islands. They've taken people from Fiji, even though Fijians would say, no, they didn't take. They did take people from a lot of places, even Samoa and Tonga. But primarily, they took a lot of Solomon Islanders.
Okay.
And they would work like plantations in Australia. So if you ever look at the Torres Straits in Australia, that's a lot of Melanesians there.
Right.
And I think also that was also a part of Australia. I mean, PNG, Papua New Guinea, because that's right close by.
Right.
And there's a lot of history between there, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. So I do want to thank everybody in the comment sections for keeping the conversation going and for all your comments. I appreciate you. Because we want to make sure we're getting this information out to as many people as possible. So please make sure you share this video. Please make sure so as many people as possible can see this video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. So as I bring more information and more guests on, you will be the first to know. I did a profile of, and when I first learned about Blackbirding, I did a profile of Truganini. And she was from Australia. She was basically a freedom fighter from Australia, one of the last full-blooded Aboriginals from Australia. And telling her story, I learned about the process of blackbirding, and it opened my mind up to the vastness of the colonization and the differences in it and the similarities as well. Yeah. You might call it something else, but it's the same thing. It has the same ingredients, the same principles, and the same outcome. So,
you had a lot of Southern carpetbaggers that went to the South Pacific after the Civil War.
I didn't know that.
And that helped to kick.
Right, right, right. So 7 years. So when you get to the South Pacific, and so which island specifically are you on?
People gonna curse me out, and I gotta go look this up again because I was on I gotta go look this up. This is bad.
It's okay.
We was on Vanua Label.
Okay.
I gotta go look this up because I had an elder moment.
It's okay. It's okay.
And, no, yeah. No, it's Viti Label.
Viti Label. Okay.
Suva and Nandi, they're on Viti Label. Actually, within Viti Label, you have like about 4 or 5 little cities. They're actually big towns, but when you get there, they're like cities.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you get Viti Levu, right? That's correct. Okay. So you get to Viti Levu, you have limited knowledge about the islands, great opportunity. So when you get there to the islands and you see where you are, what are some of the thoughts and the feelings that are going through you as you see the landscape, even before you interact with the people, but you see the landscape?
I saw the landscape and said, I messed up in this world. I said, look at this place. This place is because when you're driving from the airport to Suva, it's outside of the tourist areas. It's nothing but lush green.
Right.
My first inception of that, I couldn't understand. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a country bumpkin place.
Right.
And I was looking for cars and buildings and beaches and stores, but I got very used to that, and I expected seeing that all the time. That was actually quite soothing. I appreciate it because there's a place you got mountains, you got highlanders, and it's like very beautiful, man.
Right. Right. So
you got parrots and all this other stuff there too.
Okay, you said pirates.
Parrots.
Okay, parrots. Yeah. Okay. So, and I asked that question because just seeing the landscape from the pictures, I'm just imagining myself seeing that for the first time and just feeling like I'm in heaven or something. I'm from the country anyway, so I like that.
So yeah, the country. When I got used to it, I always wanted to at least take a drive out there. There's a lot of beautiful sights there. They got falls, and again, it's lush.
Right, right.
And it's like they have an inland where it's like it's a pretty big island.
Okay, okay. So you see the landscape. So what's your first interaction with the people of the South Pacific? Are they people of African descent? Are they colonizers? Like who is your first interaction when you get to the island?
You got 2 populations. You have the Fijians, and then you have just a little bit less than half is you have a lot of East Indians.
Okay.
And it's similar to Trinidad or Guyana or Kenya or South Africa.
Okay. Okay. And so what's your interaction like with the people? Because I know Dr. Rashidi, he basically said that they were some of the most hospitable people he's ever encountered. So what was your experience initially with encountering the people?
Most people were pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, most people.
Okay.
Most people you meet are pretty cool. And if they ain't cool, they weren't meant to be your friends anyway.
Right.
Most people that I met were cool.
Right.
I would see the taxi driver that drove me from Nandi all the way out to Suva. And it was always like, hey, man, when we going to get some beers or something like that. So, yeah, it was always cool.
That's good. Treated you well, like family. And so did you all, so in getting to know the people and interacting with the people more, did you start to have conversations about where they come from, their history, the heritage?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So I always had a question. I was like, where you guys come from?
Right.
So they would say they would come from Tanganyika. And I was like, yeah, you wouldn't even have said that word. Because I think it's a German name.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have said something else. And did you do any studies? Did you contact Tanzania, the government, or any universities, get something going? But when you look at it historically, DNA wise,
Mm-hmm.
there are Papuans. Not to say that there weren't Africans coming in there. As we
Right.
know, Mansa Musa's brother went to. It's claimed that he might have went to the Americas.
Right.
So it's Tanganyika is Tanzania. If people didn't know that, it's Lake
Mm-hmm.
Tanganyika. So I like to go to Tanzania a lot.
Right.
So last time I was there is 2020, but they're largely Papuans and Melanesians are the different mixtures. Now, also being the South Pacific with PNG, it's one of the most diverse places on this earth, DNA wise. First, Africa, second to that.
Okay.
So, and they have a wide diversity of DNA. Just that island alone, I can't remember how many people that they have. I think it's maybe 200 to 500 different groups in that country.
Mm.
That's
Oh,
a
wow.
lot. You got Highlanders, and they're different groups, and they all have distinct features. And I would
Right.
say second to that might be Solomon Islands.
Right. 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 That's interesting. Over 500 distinct groups. Yeah.
I could be lying, but they have like the
Right.
most diversity.
But I think that's something that we are, especially if you're learning more about just global African history, or even like you say, you can study the African presence just in Africa and see the diversity just on that continent. But even if you think about here in America, the diverse, yes, we have a lot of similarities, but even just the cultural diversities, how we live in, I'm in Florida, you in DC, we live different.
Yeah.
And that's understanding the vastness of the different cultural expressions of African people, but still from the diaspora. So now I read when I did my research on especially on Melanesia specifically, they I think the information I come across, if I remember correctly, was saying that there was migrations over 70,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so you are correct when you're saying they're Papuan, because that's the culture and the origins of that they have now. But it came from somewhere. The people came from
I
somewhere.
think they came from the African context.
Right. Well,
And they were I think when you see those maps of people going outside of Africa, that's them.
Yes. Well,
Because they genetically, you find them in Asia.
uh-huh.
They're Negritos. They're related to the Aborigines. They're
Yes.
related to, in southern India, you have Sentinel Islands, Jarawa. They're related to them.
Yes.
Folks in Philippines and Negritos. All these people are related.
Right.
And then when they look at old bones here in the Americas, they'll say, well, they look like a Pacific Islander, maybe a Melanesian. But pretty much we look the same. I don't even think that our heads are different. They just don't want it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, there was a vastness at one time. You even find their DNA in the Amazon.
Look,
and I think, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, but then just real quick, because Dr. Rashidi said in this interactions, he came across people who told him they were originally from Africa, the migrations. But I remember
migration, and you might have had subsequent groups leaving different, say, city-states, countries in Africa at various periods of time, and they might have gone. There might have been a connection at one time.
Right, right. But also, I remember reading about the different. It was 4 different migrations that people are saying came to America, 4 significant ones before Columbus, and one of those migrations were like the Australoids, or people with the Australian like features.
Yeah,
and there's document of those people coming to the Americas. Maybe and when we say that, we mean like maybe the Caribbean island, but mostly the Central and South American realm. So there's documentation of Australoid people in that migration there. But like you said, I've done the research. I've seen the information. Australoid people have gone all over the globe. But remembering we talk about different phenotypes and all of these things, but still a part of the diaspora.
Well, you know what I think, Captain, because you have these folks here in what we deem Melanesia and parts of Asia, because even in Taiwanese lore, they talk about the little tiny black people.
Yeah.
So, and they have a festival every year in Taiwan about it concerning that. But I think, and then you start to have, it maybe was there, maybe it was created. Yeah, the Aborigine population from Taiwan, they start spreading around. They came down, and then they filled out some of your parts in the Pacific.
Yep.
Which is now Tonga, Samoa, New Zealand, and some of those have like 20% Papuan DNA.
Okay.
And there were some mixtures, like when you get onto some of the coasts in Fiji, the Lau Islands, there's like a mixture of Tonga people and Fiji people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going back and forth. They still speak, some of them still speak Tongan, and there's a lot of lore of how the Pacific's learning tattoo comes from a Fijian princess.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, there were things going back and forth, political diplomacy, people marrying different people, and at one time, Fiji was a force to reckon with. Right.
But like even like you said, talking about the cultural expressions, the tattoo, the like I don't know if I don't want to state it incorrectly, but I might. But the different hakas, I don't know if that's specific to one island or many islands, because I'd have to do my research more.
You got or all right. New Zealand has the haka.
Okay.
Fiji's the thimbi. And
okay.
Samoa and Tonga has something. The ones that you see, the All Blacks, doing in front of, you can feel that, man. That you can feel.
Yeah.
I've seen that basketball team do that, but it didn't work.
Right.
They ended up losing. But yeah, they do. I mean, the haka is very strong. In Fiji, they have their own form of it called the thimbi. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly.
So, from your understanding, what's the significance behind the haka or the thimbi, or the different variations of the names, or the different variations whatever throughout the islands? Did you learn about the history behind it and the significance of it?
What from just being a human, it's transfer energy. You going to fight a neighboring group, you do that to pep you up. We do the same thing in front of games. We might sit, edge each other on. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah, man. That's all the haka is.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's to me, I saw this. They were doing a haka for a funeral on YouTube. And I wasn't even there, but you can feel that energy they were putting out for their departed. It was a military, for their departed military brother. And I mean, you could feel that. I mean, if you couldn't feel that, man, something's wrong.
Right.
But that was like very strong. And All Blacks, everybody learns how to do the haka.
And what are the All Blacks?
That's the New Zealand rugby team.
Okay. Because I don't want people to.
So in sevens, the best team is Fiji.
Okay, I got you. So
before I gotta put, I'm repping Fiji.
Okay.
South Pacific with a Bula shirt on.
Yes, that's a nice shirt. That is a nice shirt. Yeah, I'm jealous.
So it looks like tie dye, man. If you went to any African shop, any of the cloth, it's almost the same thing, just different pattern formations.
Gotcha.
But then again, you learn about wax, and wax was not that they don't have African print companies, but when anybody talked about African wax, was Dutch wax. It was a company from the Netherlands, and they only went to Africa like twice a year. And they had, for a long time, they were big producers, still to a degree. Now you got more Chinese producers in the printing. And you do have some African producers as well that have very good prints. But I get that I'm off the point. But anyway.
No, it's fine. I remember reading about the reason why, especially in certain African cultures on the continent of Africa, why a part of their military training was dance. And so I know we always see the videos of certain African tribes, certain African cultures, they're doing specific dances before they go on to war. But the dancing is a part of their military training. And so I was wondering, well, why is the dancing a part of the military training? Because it helps with the flexibility, the movement, agility, to make the warrior a lot more nimble, being able to move, because you don't want to be a stiff warrior. And so just being able to understand that and looking at the haka, and just looking at the just similarities in the cultures. Like, once again, I don't think if you have to study it, because I don't really think people really realize how similar we are.
We all, yeah. By now, we all on many levels are similar. You just have to, how do I put this? We all have the same needs. We all have the same wants. Things might be a little bit different socially where you are, but we all we all are social beings, and yeah, we all have some of the same thing. Though it's different when you get to different places, like things that you're used to in the States, talking about African history. That's like something like if you into, but if you go to other places, it might not be of interest.
Right.
So you always got to keep that balance in mind.
Right. So a question is, I put it on the screen. It says the actor Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, asking, is he Maori? Yeah.
The Rock is actually, his mom is Samoan. What they call the Laughing Samoans? Because his family's a wrestling family. Mm-hmm. So his father was Rocky Johnson, the wrestler.
Right.
And oh gosh, I can't think of the name of that wrestling group. But they were Samoans. And they said, hey, why don't you marry our sister? Or they introduced her and they got married later on. And so he's actually Samoan. And there's a guy on TikTok. Can't think of his name, but there's quite a few folks who have one parent that's Samoan and that's have another parent that's African American. You find a few NBA players like that.
Who?
Oh gosh, I can't think of their names because at one time I did track them.
Okay.
But you'll find there's like at one time when it was around 2014, there's like 7 or 8 of them in the league.
Okay. And thank you, Free J, for bringing that up about The Rock, because The Rock is for us. And I know the presentation of it isn't, hey, this is a man from the South Pacific who come from like the Papuan roots, but a part of the African diaspora. But he is a part of the African diaspora because his father is an African American, but his mother
his father's Afro-Canadian.
Afro-Canadian?
Yes, his father's from Canada. But remember that you had folks that came from the U.S. who were escaping. I have family that did this.
Mm-hmm.
They probably ended up in Buffalo. My great grandfather was out of Exmoor, Virginia, and I don't know if they whistled at a white woman or something, but three of his brothers left and went up to Canada because they would have been lynched at that time for whatever it was. And so you have folks that went up there because of that. And earlier, you have folks over the 1776. They were going to bring folks to. If the British said you fought for us, so we give you freedom, you can live here, blah blah blah. So I want to make this point. The first Bushmaster on that first boat the British brought out to Australia, since we're talking about which is related to Canada, and the people who fought for the British during the Revolutionary War. Half of that, 12 of those folks were, I'm going to say, broadly African American. Some were from the Caribbean, some were from America, and some were fought and they were brought to England. Things didn't fare well, so the British brought them on that boat. So I heard the first Bushmaster in Australia teaching people how to survive was a brother that was on that ship. It's very low key, but I hear that it's in the museum. There's an article about that not too long ago. If anybody wants that article, get in contact with Joseph, and I can send you a link to that article.
Right. All you gotta do is contact me. Email is ontheshoulders1, like my website, ontheshoulders1@gmail.com. So contact me. We'll make sure we get you the information.
I'll provide a link. Within the day or two, I'll provide a link to that too.
Okay. Yeah, Appreciate that. It's amazing. Like I really want to go to the South Pacific. Just talking about it, like I say, talking about it with Dr. Rashidi, looking at the research that I've already done, talking about it more with you. It's a place that I think we all need to go visit, but we need to study more. We need to learn more about it. We need to open up the diaspora all the way up and go and learn about as much as possible.
I remember also there was one time, this is off the South Pacific, I was looking at a Bahrain TV station, and there was all these black people on there singing. I was like, what's going on here? And you learn about how some of them got there. They had their own slave trade going on. Before we got to the Americas, they were sending people to Arabia. Some were going to China. Some were going to India. I actually have a book. There was a book, Africans in India. And I know Noko did a lot of research on the African presence in India as well.
Yeah. He definitely taught us about the Dalits and the CDs. I even found, have you ever learned or heard about the Kafir of Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Okay. Yeah, and see, and just that, like I know we're all over the globe, but it's the excitement of learning that you really have these groups of people in these places that we never imagined Black people to be, or people of African descent. We never imagined these people to be these places.
Like I said, that migration out of Africa, that was just it. That was Africans leaving Africa. They did not turn to any other races.
Right.
It was Africans going out.
Right.
And how many times they went out before that, we don't even know that now. But that was them going out. And like genetically, you can see the imprint of Melanesians. If it's not them directly, it's their cousins all the way around.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they are there. So obviously we know that a lot of this information isn't covered because it's not known. But for the ones who do know the information, why do you believe information about the South Pacific isn't taught a lot?
I think some of it has to do with, I can't frankly tell you why. I would like to. When you go to education in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
the education system, however, the influence of earlier Black pioneers had on the public education system, the public education system is just to do one thing. It's to educate you to get a job.
Yeah.
To work. Or to own a business. And pay taxes. And have 2.5 kids and a dog with a house in the suburbs. And you're given that blind vision. You have to break out. And I always wondered, there's some of our Black churches, I was wondering why they never really did this. Though sometimes you got to follow the money and where people get funded from too. But
yeah, unfortunately.
But that's something we have to do on our own. I remember during the 80s, they used to have like a lot of scholars in New York would come out to people's houses. And, if you pay them, they go and have lessons with you. But I think that essentially, if we want to learn ourselves, our history and how broadly we are connected in this world, we have to teach that ourselves, and that has to be important to us.
Exactly. That
was an oddity. That was always important to me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they got brothers in Cuba? What? The Garifuna in Honduras? Oh my God.
Man, when I learned about them, when I learned about the Garifuna, it blew my mind because my second book that I was writing, Central America, and I'm learning about and I mixed this information up on the last live, one of the last lives I was with Dr. Rashidi, but not King Bayano, but Joseph Chitoye. There was a freedom fighter, Joseph Chitoye, who was pre-Garifuna culture, but helped to spur the culture because he was on a slave ship going to St. Vincent. The slave ship crashed, and him and others were able to escape, going to the island of St. Vincent, and they was able to mix with the Carib Indians there. And so we have a mixture of, I think they believe Chitoye came from West, like Nigeria or West, we know it's West Africa, but I think they believe it's Nigeria. So you have the Nigerian roots mixing with the Carib Island roots, and that went on as more procreation happened. That went on to create the Garifuna, who now in Honduras and all over Brooklyn. So
even during the Haitian Revolution, you found that Tainos were fighting.
Yes,
that were there were fighting in the Haitian Revolution. There were two segments.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken, that were fighting in the Haitian Revolution. Yeah, man, come, yeah, and they talk about Maroons, because you find Maroons in Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida. You the most revolutionary spot right in America's Florida, bro.
Look, I just learned about there. So Florida's only Black county is Gaston County, and I just learned it was when the white people came in, it took over and they named it Fort Gaston. But I can't remember the name of it. But it's a Maroon community 22 minutes away from me that I had no idea about. That's been there my whole life, a Maroon community. And I go to this Gaston County. We go to Gaston County all the time, and never knew about the Maroon community. So I know that's what, not this weekend, next weekend, I'm planning to go and check out the whole scenery.
Oh, cool deal.
Yeah, I got to take some pictures and everything. But even when I went to Savannah, Georgia a couple months ago, and we went on.
In Savannah, man, they really know their history, bro.
You know what was interesting? The young lady and I that was with, we're at this Black-owned jazz cafe, and I'm eating gumbo. And when I tasted the gumbo blew my mind. And it was better than the gumbo that I had in New Orleans. But I had to remember stuff had to come through this East Coast of America. So we're talking about original gumbo recipes in Savannah before it get to New Orleans. So I had to remember that and telling myself, I was like, why is this gumbo so good? Why is it better than the gumbo I had in New Orleans? We're talking about original recipes, geechee, culture.
And that's spread throughout. It's not just, probably all of us got a little geechee in us.
I know I do.
I mean, if you got any family from Florida, that whole Atlantic seacoast, they got it because they were moving people back and forth, and you just never know.
Right. Doing the research, because like I say, I'm writing my 4th book, The On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4 of the Caribbean. So writing the book and doing my research, I'm even learning about the Taino culture and where they existed. I knew Puerto Rico, I knew Hispaniola, I knew Cuba, knew those places, but I didn't know you had Taino settlements in Florida, in Miami.
Yeah,
maybe even going as far up as Fort Lauderdale, even a little further up. Had no idea.
You still got Carib reservations in Dominica and I think St. Vincent.
Right. So, but all in all, and I know we ran it and took a left-hand turn away from the South Pacific, but you
know what? Before, let me tell everybody the Melanesian Islands.
Go ahead.
So they can take and look it on the map and get familiar. You got Fiji. They are known for rugby and beautiful smiles and bullet shirts now throughout the Pacific, and wearing Sulus, but Sulus are worn in Samoa, Tonga, Micronesia. So Fiji is one. The biggest and the most diverse is Papua New Guinea, otherwise known as PNG, and then you have the Solomon Islands. Then you have Vanuatu. Vanuatu is a tax haven. And then you have a French colony called New Caledonia.
Right.
And you can also, New Caledonia is off the chain, but that's another story. And then you have, I consider Australia as part of that because you have the Torres Straits and the Aborigines DNA they have connected with that as well.
Right.
But within that, there's a lot of diversity within the groups. The thing about Fiji is that they all speak Itoke, which Fijians are called the native, called Itoke. They speak Fijian and they all speak the same dialect, though when you go to certain places, it might change, but they all have a standard dialect that they speak, which was pushed upon them.
Gotcha.
That's a talk about one day.
Right.
But and then the British wanted that. You get, and is there anywhere else? I think that's it. And but they have the bigger islands. Is PNG is one of the biggest islands. Fiji's a big island.
Right.
And Solomon's known for they got minerals, great flute music, man. If you're into that, check out the flute music. It's beautiful. They did some renditions of some popular songs with the flutes.
Okay.
It's pretty cool, man.
Okay. What did you learn about religious practices? Have they been colonized to like Western religions? So there are some traditional practices now.
Okay. Even though some of the churches have kind of, on some level, have outlawed them, and you can even find that in certain spots in the Caribbean where they've officially outlawed them, but people still do traditional practices, and they do traditional practice. They have a traditional medicine, as well as they have a whole spiritual system.
Right. Right. Now,
But
I
most
always,
people are Christians.
but see, that's why I asked, because colonization happened, and through colonization, we know, especially they come from West, they've been colonized by Western nations. Christianity is going to come with that, so you're going to find that all over.
You'll put that on their own people, and so if they want control, they're going to throw everything they've learned.
Yes. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yeah, because that's how they get you. If they can get you spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, physical is the last. But if they can get you here, get your spirit, they got you.
And the thing is, I wish there were more Fijian anthropologists, because they have a lot of things around the island that they don't necessarily talk about, but they like have caves. There might be some things in the caves, and they're like, that's an evil thing. But then you'll get some that really know about some of the traditional history.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that really needs to be standardized.
Right. Yes.
But it would be a beautiful history.
Yeah, it definitely will be. But once again, that's why platforms like mine exist and people like you exist, because we want to make sure that we are a part of getting the information out. Our stories die when we don't tell them. If somebody else is constantly telling our story, that's how we get to a point where we really don't know who we are, where we come from, or even the why. Everybody wants to know their why. And so
when you have other people tell your story, it gets misinterpreted. And they want, and the winner tells his story.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to tell you that you burnt down all the farms and you tried to kill them. He might give one or two examples, but he ain't going to. Or you took over the boats that you tripped on. He might give you one or two examples. Be like, nah, that not really happened. No, they took a long time and used the process that they started way over in Europe, and just it's a process to get people to do what you want them to do.
Right.
In an unnatural way. So and they're not going to tell you the truth if they in power. Shoot, no. I mean, like, with the smallpox.
Mm-hmm.
Then we learned how they really found out. When the brother was enslaved, and he said, hey, you can do it this way. From Boston. Oh, man. Hold on. I got to see if my...
Okay. I never heard this story.
Yeah, the smallpox, because they were doing... Oh, man. They took a lot from West Africa. I mean, just talking about that, people think, they just bought them for labor to pick cotton. But the people that they had pick cotton were from certain groups that probably would pick cotton and growing cotton in Africa or something similar. You find the folks who did the metalworks from the Benin Kingdom. You'll find people in New England areas, whaling ships from Cape Verde, or they're from the Lebu from Senegal. I mean, they pick people for their professions. I mean, look, the Jack Daniels learned where he learned his recipe. That's how you got slave catchers.
Yes,
because they were distilling all the rum. It was like we dumb or something. I was like, these guys had to know physics on some level and chemistry.
Yes.
So you use all this labor that's on many levels skill to build America to what it's now.
Right. You didn't just pick up people off
They didn't pick just old average Joe. They picked people specifically for skills, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. We'll enslave you, separate you from your people. We're not going to teach you our stuff, but we know inherently you have a specific knowledge, and that knowledge is going to help us build this nation. But they taught us that they just snatched just random African people who were primed to be enslaved. But then we learned that no, they kidnapped some of the most brilliant people on earth.
How do you think this got built? At one point in time, like the Carolinas was one of the major rice producers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How do you think you got that? The Jonas was playing with rice. It's always killed me that they if you go to a lot of African countries, they are importing rice. They're some of the best rice people in the world, man. I had this rice in Cameroon. It was small, beady rice. I thought it was the best rice. It's probably most nutritious for us.
Right.
We got this old commercial GMO white rice.
Exactly.
And then, but they were cultivating rice a long time.
But what's interesting though, learning about red rice from South Carolina and then looking at jollof rice.
Jolas.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. My mom used to cook that. She used to call it Spanish rice. And then I get that I get the guy that has some jollof. I said, get out of here.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Right.
It's the same thing my mom used to cook.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I learned that the word gumbo literally means okra.
Yeah.
But for us, gumbo is a mixture. But gumbo literally is an African West Africa. I forget the exact country, but a West African word for okra. So we're saying all this to emphasize how no matter where throughout the diaspora African people went, we retained a lot of our culture.
Oh yeah.
Even in Americas or in any other place throughout the diaspora where we experienced like great oppression, we still retain aspects of our culture that we still hold on to today. But the issue is we're not telling our stories. So since we're not telling our stories, we're looking at it as if, we're getting the stories from the white perspective, rather. We're getting the stories from the white perspective. So like Brother Martin said, we're getting bits and pieces of it. They're not going to tell you that Monday through Thursday they kicked us, they kicked butt. No, they had one revolution. No, we were
been like 1,000 of them going.
We were causing hell.
That's why they probably were importing Europeans, so they, because at one time we dominated with sheer numbers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they started importing more people from Europe. There was probably a reason for that.
Right. So yeah, and the comments, Lena. Yeah, I love okra as well, but yeah, that's one of the histories.
I used to go to churches? Fried chicken, get that okra? What?
Look here.
That's my favorite. Hey, fried okra.
Okra and tomatoes. Like my mom used to cook that all the time. Like now, matter of fact, we have here in Tallahassee, we have community gardens in some of our food deserts. No lie. 2 weeks ago, I picked the okra literally this long. Like literally this long off of a tree. So we're talking about the science that has come like thousands and hundreds of thousands of years from the continent that we still retain to this day. Because I'm talking about a garden that's controlled by Black people that has okra long as your arm. So look.
The best okra I had was in Shiraro, Ethiopia. They stir fried this joint. Oh my gosh. It had some injera with it. It was soft, melted right in your mouth.
Oh man, that's so cool.
And it was some nice small.
Right.
It was some big, and it was probably about this thick. What?
That's cool. That is so cool. Yeah, when you I love to eat as well. So yeah. So I'm definitely gonna have to. We're gonna have to bring you back because we're gonna have to talk about your travels, some of your travels in your concentration on African history and African studies. But definitely gonna have to bring you back. But I wanna, as we wind this down, how can people get in contact with you?
Oh man, we just getting started, man. That was the preliminary. Now we're gonna go into the lecture.
See, we got to tease. We got to tease them a bit. We got to tease them. Give them some cliffhangers. Yeah. So how because once again, thank you for the information and being able to contribute to this channel. I created this channel a while ago because I was upset that young girls, young high schoolers in my city didn't know who Harriet Tubman was. And Harriet Tubman is one of my favorite figures from just history. These young girls didn't know who Harriet Tubman was. And so my mission was that there will no longer be generations of Black people who don't know who our ancestors are. And I thank you for being able to contribute to that, to this channel.
For having me on.
Yes, sir. And I definitely, we're going to set our date so we can have you back so we can talk more about your travels throughout Africa.
We can go on another hour if you want now.
I will. Look, if I have to go to work tomorrow, we'll be on this.
Same here, bro. Same here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So how can people get in contact with you?
Hey, let me see. I'm on Facebook, Martin V. Burrows Jr. I'm on LinkedIn, same name. You'll see that picture on the advertisement that Joseph had. You'll see that picture on my LinkedIn. And then for my, I'll leave an email address.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we put those things in the description. But thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Once again, you all help make this channel what it is. Thanks to everybody in the chat for giving a lot of your feedback and the information. Thank you to please share this video. Just thank you. Share this video. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Make yourself at home. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Visit my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com.
Yes, please.
I can use the support. Make sure you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/OTSOG for as little as $1 or as much as you want to contribute to the platform. And all your contributions will go to this platform, contributing back to the communities that I serve and the African diaspora as a whole, because it costs to get this information out and do all these things. And just remind people, my 4th book is coming soon, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean. Well, I'm getting funky in this book. I think this is gonna be my most comprehensive book. And yeah, around the time when the book is coming out, definitely gonna have you back so we'll talk more about the Tainos and the Carib Indians in the Caribbean, because
did you deal with the Seminoles?
Well,
because they brought Seminoles to Africa and
I didn't know that, but I dealt with. I'm not dealing with the Seminoles in this book, but I'm going to have to dedicate something to the Seminoles.
The brothers was like off the chain.
Yes,
they had to bring them to what is it, Exuma, I think. Yeah, they brought them to Exuma in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Oh man, they had to be off the chain.
They went down to Mexico because in learning about the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Coming south,
nobody talks about that in Mexico, that the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
And if you were a slave catcher and you went to Mexico, they was like, "What you doing here? This ain't your business."
Right. And
you need to leave.
And a lot of
Black people,
got their butt
your business.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna
then you got to break down what Mexican really means.
See, we're gonna have to talk more. See, I love that. See, thank you. That's the cliffhanger we needed. That is the cliffhanger we needed for the people. Hey, the great brother Martin V. Burrows.
All right, Joseph, thanks.
You are the man. I appreciate you. Everybody who tuned in, I love you all. Let's keep this thing going. I'll be back. We're going to be back soon. We're going to set a date. We'll let you know. But tune in Friday because I'm dropping another video Friday. Dr. Amos Wilson, Blueprint for Black Power, Part 1. We'll see y'all next time. Peace out, family. We love you.